Mic check, yo. We still here?
Congratulations, remember, the rapper Zuby just set a major women's sports record, and he did it without even training and without even being a woman. A couple weeks ago, Zuby tweeted this, quote, "I keep hearing about how biological men don't have any physical strength advantage over women in 2019, so watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without even trying."
That's how it is in pool, you know. Men can't compete in the women's division of pool, but women can compete in the men's division.
Yeah, it's the same in most sports. Most people aren't aware of that. Most people think that they have specific restrictions saying only men can do them, but that's actually quite rare.
Well, there's a lot of successful female to male athletes where females transition to males and dominate male sports.
Okay, I wasn't
true. I made it up.
Oh, okay, all right.
100% fake. It's never gonna happen.
I was there trying to think of one. I was like,
people listening and going, "What the fuck is this? What is going on?"
I mean, the whole thing of white privilege is it's essentially a little essay or paper by some woman that went way too far, right? You know, they had that whole I can't remember the name of the woman who first wrote the paper on it and the invisible knapsack and whatever. It was, you know, a relatively short paper just with this idea of white privilege, right? It was just kind of an idea. And for whatever reason, over the past few decades, people kind of refound this paper and ran with it. And so now you've got politicians and you've got actors and you've got just general people talking about this whole concept.
I think one of the worst things you can do, especially to a young person, is to convince them that they're some kind of victim and that the world is against them and that they're oppressed, especially if that's not actually true. Because I believe that whatever lens you view the world through is gonna be your reality.
Zuby is an independent rapper, author, life and fitness coach, public speaker, and host of Real Talk with Zuby podcast. He's the owner of the British women's deadlifting record as well. You can find him on Twitter at Zuby Music. How are you, sir?
I am blessed and highly favored as always.
Very good. Now, people who may have not already been fans of you from your music probably heard of you, like myself, after your record-setting deadlift. And I want to show a clip of you on Joe Rogan talking about it and get really your reaction about how everybody responded to just this simple thing that you did online. Let's take a look at that first.
Well, you know, we live in a times where everyone's saying is right wing, so let it be so. I don't know.
Well, if you're not as progressive as humanly possible, you're alt-right.
Well, yeah, exactly, pretty much. I've seen all sorts of titles levied onto everybody, including yourself. So
yeah,
it's
what about you?
Interesting.
Did you get
myself?
For people who don't know, Zuby won the world championships in women's powerlifting. You identified as a woman for a brief period of time.
Yeah, 9
just
seconds.
To lift. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the world we live in.
Dude, that thing blew the internet up. It's crazy.
We were laughing.
Insane how far it went, man. Yeah, I know. I saw that. People.
There it is. Let's show it.
Yeah.
P.S. I identify as a woman whilst lifting the weight. Don't be a bigot.
You know, I think when you first talked about that, I had like 40,000 followers. It's now well over 115, and when I posted it, I had 15,000 followers.
So Zuby, when all that happened and that clip blew up, why do you think people responded so well to it? Why do you think so many people shared it? I mean, it was such a simple thing. It probably took 5 seconds of your workout or 9 seconds or however long it was. Why do you think that resonated with people so much?
Because I said what other people were thinking, but I did it in a funny way, and it was also a checkmate maneuver because anyone who actually advocates for this policy or this ideology, they either have to accept me as the British women's deadlift record holder, because they've been telling everyone for the past 5-6 years that a woman is anyone who identifies as such. We've seen plenty of celebrities coming out saying that they are men or they're women or they're non-binary, and you're just supposed to go along with it. And in fact, people get punished if they do not. So I said, okay, well, if those are the rules, I'm now a woman. So either they have to deny the fact that I'm a woman, which by their own rules is transphobic, or they have to accept me as the British women's deadlift and bench press record holder. So I think that it was a checkmate maneuver, but I think also the fact that it was funny, it had video, it was timely, it was a hot topic that a lot of people are passionate about, but very few people had kind of done what I did, right? People are there trying to use logic and rationale to get people out of a position that they haven't reached through logic and rationale. And instead of, getting angry at it or getting mad at it or trying to explain all the biological differences between men and women, I just said, oh, cool. Okay, those are the rules. Let's do it.
Yeah, it always sucks when you play by the rules and it works out against them. I wanted to ask you, though, in a bit more of a serious manner, about the complexity of the science behind transgender and the effects it can have, especially in women's sports. Obviously, it's way more effective, let's say, in women's sports than in men's. Is it as simple as what people discuss about like testosterone levels, bone structure and density, muscle reaction times? Is it more than that, or is that just people trying to deflect from the reality of it? How simple is it? Is it as simple as the common sense would tell us?
It is as simple as the common sense will tell you. We all know and have known for millennia, before people even knew what science was. We've always known that there are differences between males and females. This is not even unique to the human species. Look at the animal kingdom. With many animals, you can tell which ones are male, which ones are female, just by looking at them. With some species, you can't, right? You'd have to look at their genitalia or whatever. But in human beings, males and females we're drastically different. We all know how we got here, right? We were all birthed from women. We were not birthed from men. We know how sexual reproduction happens.
Zuby, I believe.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's crazy how they're throwing women under the bus with all of this. That's the crazy part of it. So yeah, I mean, in terms of specific differences between males and females, of course, men have vastly higher testosterone levels, which is linked with physical strength, muscle strength and density, also aggression. And then you've also got the impacts so you get a couple big doses of testosterone in your life. And the first one is in the womb, right? That's what even makes males males. And so as a result of that, you have the androgenic effect. So you've got, yes, a bigger body, taller, stronger, faster, more muscle density. And then you've got, larger hand sizes, larger feet, quicker reaction times, as you mentioned, greater lung capacity, all sorts of things. I mean, that's why in every single sport, virtually every single sport, you have men's and women's, because if you didn't, and it was just the best of the best, you won't have any female professional athletes at all, right? If you want female athletes to be able to exist, you have to separate the category out, because the 1,000 fastest people in the world are all men, right? Probably the fastest 5,000 people in the world are probably all men. The strongest 5,000 people in the world, the strongest million people in the world probably are all men. And that's just because we are biologically different. Everyone knows this. Nobody was questioning it until 5 minutes ago. And so the fact that, and of course, if someone does go through an actual transition and they do like hormone replacement therapy, et cetera, then sure, their testosterone levels will be lower. If a man transitions into a trans woman, then sure, the testosterone level will be lower, but that doesn't change the physical body. Caitlyn Jenner is still 6'3", and still has a particular build, which makes it clear that okay, this person is not a female. So it's just reality. It's just the reality of it, and it's not something that it amazes me that it's something that's even a debate, and it's a debate that's been going on for this long when it's so obvious. And the funny thing is, as well, is it's so clear, because why is it only a one-way thing, right? We're always talking women's sports. Why aren't we talking about men's sports, right? Because there's no woman who's going to transition into being a man and start beating biological men in their sports. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's only a one-way thing. So that in itself is super obvious evidence for people who really don't get it that, okay, this is not an equal playing field. There clearly is a difference here. Otherwise, we wouldn't just be talking about protecting female sports. you'd be talking about, oh, we need to protect men's sports as well because there's all these women transitioning and, you know, crushing people in the NFL and the NBA, but that's not happening. It's not going to happen.
Now, the New Zealand Olympic team is putting forth the first trans athlete in Olympic history. It's deadlifting, I think, and I think the person also used to compete in the male events and didn't do very well. Obviously didn't get into the Olympics that way. How do you think that's going to turn out? And I just want to preface that with the rules that I have written down here for their testosterone levels. They have to be below 10 nanomoles per liter for at least 12 months before the first competition, end quote. And what that makes me think is, in MMA, you can't weigh in 12 months ahead of your fight. 12 months is a long time for testosterone levels to get back up. Am I wrong about that? And how do you think that's actually going to work out for the Olympics?
Yeah, you're right. Well, it will depend on the proficiency of this lifter. Simply someone identifying as trans doesn't necessarily mean that they will be the strongest person. Because you said, I don't know how they were performing when competing in the men's category. But if you took someone who's winning in the men's category or who's not even winning, who's doing well, and is, you know, just slightly behind the people who are winning, and then that kind of person were to transition, then of course they're gonna dominate the whole competition, especially when it comes to something like Olympic lifting. I mean, the biggest strength difference between males and females is in the upper body, because that's where your androgen receptors are. So if you look at the bottom half of a body, like, you're not going to see a huge size difference generally between men and women, you know, like in terms of legs and glutes and all of that. But if you look at the upper body, you look at chest, shoulders. I mean, if you just see two silhouettes, you can actually tell a male and a female from the upper body silhouette. So when it comes to something like Olympic lifting, which includes the snatch and the clean and jerk, where you're literally putting huge amounts of weight over your head, then there's going to be an advantage there. So with this specific individual, it's not necessarily a given that they're going to win, because it depends on how good they are at lifting and how good the competition is. But they would clearly have an advantage, a significant advantage compared to a woman who's biologically female and has been training her whole life. So if this person ended up winning, it wouldn't surprise me. I think this individual was supposed to compete in the previous one, but I think they got injured. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It's all insanity to me, but maybe the insanity needs to run its course for people to get the picture.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. I follow you on Twitter, and I see a lot of the stuff you say about this stuff, and generally see what you say when you have, you know, silly comments about you being a transphobe or something, for example. Are there any good / legitimate arguments that are brought to you about this, or is this just another you're shaking your head? No?
Zero. There is no good arguments.
Okay.
That's why people rely on the name calling, because they don't have an argument. It's a stupid argument. It's not a, you know, it's me arguing that, you know, looking outside and the sky is blue, and I'm trying to convince people that it's red. I mean, I can tell people I feel that way and that they're bigots if they don't also see it as red and whatever, but I'm not making an argument. You know, it's just it's totally all about feelings. It's about feelings. It's about some bizarre form of political correctness that has gone way too far to the point of destruction. But I've never in my life heard a good argument for it. I mean, these are the same people who can't actually define man or woman without using a circular definition. I mean, with some of these people, you literally say, what is a man? And they can't give you a straight answer. And what is a woman, right? And they can't give you a straight answer. And if you can't answer that basic question, then, you've got other issues.
Florida and another state that I can't remember off the top of my head are legislating and passed a bill in their House that bans transgender. I get confused. A man who becomes a woman bans it in their scholastic sports all the way through school. Do you think that's a good idea, or would you rather see it be culturally defeated?
Both.
Yeah?
Both. Yeah. Because this has actual repercussions on girls and women. This is, people like to talk about the patriarchy and misogyny. This is like the real one. This is the real one, right? Both in terms of physical safety, right? If you're talking about any sort of contact sport, especially, I mean, we saw what happened with Fallon Fox in MMA, literally cracking women's skulls, etc. And there's a safety factor and a security. There's also the aspect of, if you're looking at school level, things like scholarships, right? Girls losing out to scholarships that are for girls, and they're losing them to boys, right? That's insane. That's a gigantic step backwards. Like any true, like actual proper feminist or just any sane person, they should be railing super duper hard against this. And I know some of them are, but as far as I'm concerned, this is like the real neo misogyny that's going on here. Because as I said, it's a one-way thing. It's a one-way thing, right? There aren't men. This isn't an issue for men, and that in itself says it all. Because if it were truly equal and there weren't these biological differences, et cetera, then this would be a two-way thing, right? You'd have men protesting, saying, hey, like, this isn't fair for our sports, et cetera. But no, why is it only women? Why is it only girls that it's an issue for? It's because biology is biology. Biology, you know, people can choose to reject reality, but they still have to live in it. Reality still exists. So, and, you know, I also think it's a bigger issue because it's literally a war on reality. Right. I think the sports issue is just highlighting part of a much greater issue that's happening in modern Western society, where there's a war on reality and people are being punished for telling the truth. And anytime you have a society or a culture where people are punished for telling the truth, I'm not even talking about opinions here, right? Just telling facts, then you're in a really bad situation, really, really bad situation. And if people can let this one slide, then it's not going to end. You know, it's not going to end. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep encroaching. Obviously, this stuff is being pushed towards children now. It's being pushed in schools, et cetera. And people need to understand that, look, you know, even people who consider themselves more liberal or more progressive, it's like you still got to have a line, right? You still have to have a line of, okay, we're not going to go that far, right? We don't want to push things that far. And I think people are too hesitant to do that. And but if people don't, then it's going to lead to an even worse situation.
Luckily, Fallon Fox was not that good talking about MMA. It was literally a skull fracture, I believe. Shout out to Ashley Evans Smith for beating her, because Fallon Fox wasn't actually that good. But yeah, it's really scary that I think, I don't have a daughter myself, but I have lots of nieces, 4 of them to be exact, and I would be frightened if they had to one day fight a person who used to be a man, or rugby, for example. I know one of our reporters has a daughter who's in rugby, and you might end up getting extremely hurt by a much bigger, broader boned man. But I want to transition to something a little different. It's your music. I want to show your latest video, a bit of it, and I want to talk about sort of the evolution. I've always had a lot of questions about British hip hop and rap, and I think you're the person to answer it for me. So let's go ahead and play that clip, Justin, please.
And I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. What a mess. Look, Lord knows that I'm blessed, and I make moves, Lord knows I confess. Devil hates me, so the devil breaks free, but he can't make moves with a hole in his chest. Man, what a mess. Gotta slay demons, souls are possessed. Gotta slay demons, souls never less. Like Dante, Nero, roll with the best. This is no lie, this is no test, this is no try.
Thanks for watching another episode of Andrew Says. If you want exclusive content, go to rebelnewsplus.com, where we talk about topics we're not allowed to show you on social media. Danger.